Someone said something. Maybe it was in front of other people. Maybe it was delivered with a smile, just plausible enough to seem accidental. But you felt it land, that sharp internal jolt followed by the scramble. Do you say something back? Do you laugh it off? Do you go quiet? Hours later, you're still thinking about it, replaying the moment, composing the perfect response you didn't give. Today we fix that. Insults sting for a very specific reason. Your brain processes social rejection in the same region it processes physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex. This isn't metaphorical. A cutting remark triggers a genuine threat response. Heart rate rises, cognitive clarity narrows. The thinking, strategic part of your brain partially goes offline. Understanding this matters because the instinctive reactions that follow that biological hijack are almost always the wrong ones. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly what's happening when someone insults you, why people do it, and the specific techniques that allow you to respond from a position of genuine power rather than reactive damage control. By the end of this, you will understand insults differently, and that understanding is itself a form of protection that works before a single word needs to leave your mouth. When you receive an insult, your amygdala flags it as a social threat. In evolutionary terms, exclusion from the group was a survival risk. So your brain mobilizes, fight, flight, or freeze. You might feel an impulse to lash back aggressively. You might go quiet and shut down. You might laugh nervously to dissolve the tension. All three are amygdala responses. None of them are considered, and none of them serve you well when the situation requires composure and strategy. Before responding to an insult, it helps to understand why people throw them. Insults are almost always about the person delivering them, not you. They signal low self-esteem performing as dominance. They reflect anxiety about status and control. They are projection, qualities the insulter dislikes in themselves, externalized onto someone nearby. The person insulting you is telling you something true about their internal world. They are rarely telling you anything accurate about yours. Projection is one of the most important psychological concepts you can internalize. When someone mocks your ambition, it often means theirs has gone unfulfilled. When they criticize your appearance, they're frequently anxious about their own. When they belittle your achievements, they're communicating something about how undervalued they feel. This doesn't mean insults don't hurt. It means that when you understand their true origin, they lose a significant portion of their power. You are not their mirror. Their words reflect them. The reactive response is tempting and almost always costly. Firing back with an insult of equal or greater force might feel satisfying for approximately 3 seconds. But it validates the frame the insulter set up. It signals that they got to you. It invites escalation on terrain they chose. And in social settings, it often makes you look worse than they do because you're the one who visibly lost composure. The person who stays calm in the face of an insult looks stronger than the person who threw it. The single most effective tool available to you is the pause. Before you respond to anything, create a small, deliberate gap. Breathe once. Let the amygdala alarm begin to settle. 3 seconds of silence is not weakness. It is a signal that you are not governed by their remark. It also buys your prefrontal cortex time to come back online. The person who can hold silence comfortably after an insult is already in a position of strength. The insulter will often fill that silence themselves, revealing more than intended. One of the most disarming responses available is calm, genuine agreement, or partial agreement. If someone says you made a mistake, agreeing with them removes the conflict entirely. If there's a grain of truth, acknowledging it takes the power from their hands. What they expected was defensiveness. What they got was confidence. A person secure enough in themselves to acknowledge imperfections without shame is extraordinarily difficult to destabilize. Defensiveness is fuel for an insult. Agreement is a fire extinguisher. The curious question is another technique that reverses the power dynamic with remarkable efficiency. When someone says something cutting, respond with calm, genuine curiosity. What do you mean by that exactly? That's an interesting thing to say. What made you think of it? This forces the insulter to either explain and expose their intent or retreat from it. They expected a reaction. They got a question. The question puts them in the position of having to account for their own words. That is a position of significant discomfort. Here is the insight that consolidates everything. Your reaction to an insult determines who holds power in that moment. Not the words themselves, your response. When you react with visible hurt or anger, you confirm that their words had authority over your internal state. When you respond from a position of composure, curiosity, or even calm amusement, you communicate something far more powerful, that what they said simply didn't land with the weight they intended. That composure is not performative, it's a skill, and it's learnable. Humor, used from a place of genuine security, can be extraordinarily effective. Not deflective laughter to dissolve the tension that signals discomfort, but a genuinely amused, light response that communicates the remark didn't reach you at the level the speaker intended. The ability to laugh lightly at criticism, without resentment and without performance, is a hallmark of high self-esteem. It's also deeply disarming. It is very hard to continue insulting someone who looks genuinely unbothered. Public insults require slightly different handling than private ones because they come with an audience. In public, your composure is not just about you, it's being read by everyone present. A composed, measured response that gently exposes the remark without aggression often lands with enormous impact because the audience sees you handle it well. Responding with visible distress or with a retaliatory attack that escalates the scene almost always works against you regardless of what was said. The chronic insulter deserves particular attention. Someone who regularly makes cutting remarks under the guise of humor or honesty is communicating something consistent, that they feel comfortable diminishing you and that they expect you to accept it. The appropriate response to a pattern is not to manage it with better comebacks. It's to name it directly, privately if possible, without heat. What you said earlier, that happens a lot. I'd like it to stop. Simple, clear, non-dramatic. That resets the contract. Boundaries with insulters don't require anger or lengthy explanations. In fact, the less emotional energy you bring to the boundary, the more authority it carries. The goal is not to make them understand or feel guilty. The goal is to be clear about what you will and will not accept. Boundaries delivered from a calm, grounded place are harder to argue with and harder to dismiss. They signal self-respect, not grievance. And that distinction matters enormously to how they're received. The deepest protection against insults is a self-concept that doesn't require external validation to remain intact. When your sense of who you are is built on your own values, your own standards, and your own honest self-assessment, rather than what others think of you, insults simply have less surface area to attach to. This doesn't happen overnight. It's built through consistent self-knowledge, honest self-appraisal, and the slow, patient work of knowing yourself well enough to trust your own judgment. After a difficult exchange, it's worth reflecting rather than ruminating. Rumination replays the event endlessly without resolution. Reflection asks useful questions. What happened? How did I respond? How would I respond differently? What did this reveal about the dynamic? If something genuinely hurt, acknowledging that honestly to yourself is not weakness, it's how you process and release it. Insights that come from genuine reflection protect you more durably than clever comebacks you rehearse in the shower. If the psychology of how we relate to each other interests you, how we protect ourselves, establish authority, navigate conflict, and understand the people around us, I explore exactly this every week on Mind Decoded. It's the kind of thinking that changes how you move through the world. The link to the blog is in the description below, and subscribing to the channel means you'll never miss an episode. I'd genuinely love to have you there. Let's bring it together. Insults sting because your brain is wired to treat social threat like physical pain. The people who deliver them are almost always communicating something about themselves. Your most powerful tool is composure, the pause, the calm question, the grounded boundary. And the deepest protection of all is a self-concept that doesn't depend on others' opinions to remain stable. You cannot control what people say. You can absolutely control what authority you give it. Subscribe to Mind Decoded. Every week we decode human psychology, behavior, and the patterns most people never notice. If you want to understand yourself and the people around you more clearly, and use that understanding to live and relate with more confidence, this channel is built for you. Hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.